Thank you for inviting me here. I've come here more as a listener. I'm not a technical expert. I've come here to listen to you, to get a sense of what you're feeling and how we can work together. I mean, I'm happy to take whatever questions you'd like to throw at me. I think you'll be taking care of that aspect. I'm pretty excited to be here, so let's get moving.
My name is Aprameya. I used to run Taxi for Sure. Now I run Vocal. I'm also an angel investor. Some of my companies which I invested in have been getting notices asking them to pay tax on the amount that has been invested by us. This is with the assumption that we haven't paid tax already, right? So that is almost assuming that I have evaded tax and treating me like a criminal through the eyes of the startup that I have invested in, right? So an honest tax-paying citizen like me and so many others who are trying to, invest in startups, when will all of these people be treated with the respect that they deserve? And how would you ensure it, sir?
I think I've been informed about the angel tax, and I think angel tax goes counter to the philosophy of startups. So I said I'll say one or two things here. We're going to get rid of this tax. When we come to power, we'll
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
And you can call me on that one.
Sure, sir.
So we will connect you to Aprameya.
Yeah. If you want to look at pretty much any big jump that India has taken, green revolution, white revolution, liberalization, telecoms, computers, it is always about breaking a monopoly. There is always, if you look carefully, you will always find that there is a monopoly that has been broken that has resulted in the step change. And currently there is a massive monopoly on our banking system. If you look at the names, Mr. Nirav Modi, Mr. Mehul Choksi, Vijay Mallya, Anil Ambani, these names, Mr. Nirav Modi takes 35,000 crores. 35,000 crores, that's the equivalent of 1 year's of Narega money. Takes it, runs away to London, and what does he give back? How many jobs has Mr. Nirav Modi given this country? Almost nothing. So our entire structure, banking structure, is captured and controlled by very, very few limited numbers of people. And I think one has to transform that, one has to change that. One has to make banking capital, of course they have a place, because businesses have a place, but they're not going to be producing the jobs. The jobs are going to be produced by small and medium businesses, by entrepreneurs. That's a fact. If you look at job production, it comes when small and medium businesses become big businesses, and it comes from this type of ecosystem. So opening up the banking system to entrepreneurs, to small and medium businesses aggressively, that's something that is fundamental.
And I think the first part of his question was, what programs do you wish to put forward that would help his community? I think in terms of Dalit entrepreneurship, in terms of those that are socially less well off. And,
I mean, you mean social programs, or you mean specifically
entrepreneurship?
targeted?
He's asking about specifically.
I mean, I think helping them with the banking system, helping them with training systems, helping them setting up hubs and connected areas where they can have easy access, where they can come in, and start their businesses easily, connecting the skills of the country to the financial system, to the governance system. If you want, look, apart from everything else that is going on, you sense a anger in Indian society. You sense a tension in Indian society. And that tension and anger is there because India is failing on jobs. And government doesn't like to say it, but the fact of the matter is this country is dramatically, disastrously failing on jobs. Okay? And we can keep making excuses. We can keep saying that we're a superpower and we're all this. But India is simply not competitive when it comes to making jobs. And this is something that India will have to first accept, and after you accept it, you can do something about it. Right? You look at our entire conversation. It is always about growth. We grew 7%, we grew 6%, we grew whatever we did. But nobody says, this quarter, this is how many jobs were added. Nobody is focusing on the critical metric of jobs. And there is only one group of people who can solve this job problem, and it is small and medium businesses and entrepreneurs. Now the second thing, the second massive disconnect that we don't talk about, there are traditional hubs of skill. And you can see them all over Karnataka, you can see them all over India. You know the names, there's Kanpur in Uttar Pradesh, there's Bengaluru as a tech hub. There are multiple hubs of different skills. And we have an attitude where we don't really value them. We don't think that the skills that are embedded, for example, in Kanpur or in Mirzapur, I'm talking about UP, or in Bangalore, these skills are what is important. So what we do is, we don't link our system to those skills. If you look at the success of the Chinese, and I'm absolutely convinced that our single biggest challenge is to take them on and actually do better than them, and I'm convinced we can do it. What they have done at scale is they have taken their skill networks, their traditional old skill networks, and connected them to their financial network, connected them to their infrastructure. So we have to think in terms of where are the skills, who are the people with skills, and breaking monopolies, and also making sure that we have a single-minded focus, that if we do not start to create the jobs that we need, we're sitting on a disaster the size we cannot even comprehend. So I want to bring a sense of urgency here, because we always like to talk about the successes, and there are many successes, all of you are successful. But country the size of India, the scale of India, simply needs to be producing jobs at a massive scale, and we're failing there. When we say jobs, we're thinking about formal jobs, okay? But the nature of India is that there are many informal jobs, and you cannot ignore those informal jobs. And one of the things that I think has tremendously damaged this country is the notion that the current government has that the informal sector is ineffective, useless, needs to be changed. The informal sector is actually the backbone of India. And the informal sector, it really is. And the informal sector needs to be transformed, not with shock therapy, gently, but the informal sector also needs to be protected, in that you can't just one day get up in the evening and say, listen, we're now going to detonate the entire informal sector by getting rid of the 500 and the 1,000 rupee note. You just can't do that. And you've literally wiped out over 1 crore jobs last year because of this type of policies. Newspapers don't write about this. Newspapers have their own reasons for not writing about this. But some of the policies that the government has carried out, demonetization, the way they've implemented GST, have been absolutely disastrous on jobs. Connecting the education system to the business ecosystem. Bridging the universities with business. There's no other way to do it. Today our universities, and even the best ones, they're silos. They teach very well, but not connected networks. They are silos. So you can't, for example, access our universities and then have conversations about building businesses. You can't have that type of a conversation. So a modern university, a 21st century university, is a network. It's no longer a concrete silo. And so opening up these universities, making sure that the right type of people are leading these universities, giving these universities independence. Frankly, the current dispensation is placing ideological people at the head of these universities. So there's no way you're going to do that. You're going to fix that problem. But giving license to our university, basically trusting them.
Okay.
Saying, listen, we trust you, get on with it, we're not going to disturb you. Get to work, talk to business people. That is the general approach of the government. The starting position is distrust. I don't trust you. So the first thing you've got to say is, okay, no, actually we're going to trust you, we're going to go ahead and trust you, and make a mistake, then we'll see. So the attitude requires a shift. But opening some of these structures.
How do you create more entrepreneurs in the villages who can go on to create many jobs? I think the jobs crisis that we have is a structural systemic crisis, and it needs to be solved in a very, very fundamental way. And we believe that entrepreneurship and enabling youth to become entrepreneurial and what we call as mass entrepreneurs and creating more jobs is the key. So the question I have for you is, I want to visualize a young lady. So I represent the voice of around 10,000 youth across 11 states that we work with. The point is, there's a young lady, 21 years of age, who's completed a graduation in a village in Sindhanur Taluk in Raichur. And she's saying, where are the opportunities for me? How do I go on to dream of the socioeconomic status of an entrepreneur? And how do I feel empowered enough to make those choices? What's your thought for that girl out there, and what would you do to empower that young woman to go on to be an entrepreneur?
I mean, first of all, I think there are entrepreneurs all over India. I mean, I go to poor, villages in Uttar Pradesh, some brilliant work going on there, right? But the problem is not that the skills don't exist, or the idea that a lot of people have is that, we need to skill people. Skills are there. There's no shortage of skills in India. You might need a fine-tuning that you need to do to the skill to bring him into a corporate situation. But there's no limit to the skills that this country has. We don't actually utilize the skill. We don't actually give access to the skill. I'll give you a small example, right? Just off the cuff. We think about vocational training, and we say, listen, we are going to set up a ITI, and now we are going to train, let's say, carpenters. And so you have somebody training a whole bunch of carpenters. That's the current way of thinking about training. Well, there are millions of carpenters in this country. There's a network of carpenters in this country. They know how to do carpentry. Why don't you use them to train carpenters? Why don't you say to them that, listen, you understand how carpenters are trained. Go to every carpenter and say, listen, you please train 3 carpenters or 5 carpenters, and then have a system of certification of carpenters. And say, every time one of the carpenters you've trained gets certified, we give you 100 rupees in your bank account. You'll train unlimited number of carpenters. Point I'm making is that there are skills networks in this country. Millions of people who absolutely understand what has to be done. But the system doesn't really reach out to them and say, okay, listen, you have this skill now, help us train. Have you ever heard, for example, the government of India saying to carpenters or barbers, listen, we want you to now become an army of trainers? I've never heard it said. So there is a sense in our mind that skill is something that is centralized and that has to be handed out to people. No. There is skill all over this country. It's decentralized. It's operating right now. You have to link. You have to enable that guy. Right? And what is Bangalore? If you look at it, right, everybody says Bangalore is basically a particular type of skill that was built up over a long period of time, and then that skill connected to the United States and the rest of the world. That's basically what has created modern Bangalore. So what we do with Bangalore, or what we did with Bangalore, is what we have to do with other people, other hubs of skill. There is no reason. I mean, when you look at, for example, a town in China that produces 90% of the locks that are being sold in the world, what they've essentially done is connected a traditional network of skills with money to the rest of the world. and built the whole value chain. That's what we can do it easily. But we have to change our mindset to one of growth only. We got to say, okay, now let's start producing millions and millions of jobs. How do you do that? You can't do it without the skills. So then the next step obviously is find the people, start building those connectivity, those networks, and the thing will fire. We've had successes, huh? For example, Bangalore is a huge success. If you look at what everybody calls the white revolution, Amul, it is basically connecting a large number of women in a district of Gujarat called Anand 70 years ago that produced Anand and created, made India #1 milk producer. So when you reach out to the skills, it happens. But that's not our default position. In India, generally people don't respect skills. The starting position is they respect power, they don't respect skills. Everybody says, oh, China's 10x us, 20x us. I don't believe that. We are fundamentally different in China. And you can't measure India the way you measure China. So I don't believe that China is, miles ahead of us or anything like that. What China has done pretty well is build manufacturing systems on skills and formalizing it. Okay? But India has tremendous capacity, tremendous flexibility that China just does not have. So you can't build a 60,000 man factory in India because of the nature of our democracy and the nature of our ecosystem. But let me tell you, modern manufacturing is flexible manufacturing. Modern manufacturing is going to be small units with a lot of high tech injected in them. That is perfect for India. So it is being open to some of these ideas. Look, when you close your mind, when you have an environment which is angry, when you have an environment where there is tension, anger, viciousness, you don't just close your mind. You close the entire ecosystem. Right? So what is happening today is India's liberal nature, India's open system, India's institutions are being attacked. They are being suppressed. So for us, you have to have an open ecosystem. People have to be ready to talk. People have to be ready to converse. Right? For us, that's the first step. With a bad environment, you're going nowhere. On the specifics, manufacturing, you got to build the basic infrastructure. You got to build roads. You got to build the architecture that allows goods to be moved about.